the Nintendo Switch 2 officially came out 1 month ago, and that right there is crazy. And there's a lot of things that I gotta share with you. Some good, some bad, and some, well, Nintendo fixed. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Okay, so the Switch 2 game library. Now I know, the Nintendo Switch 2 didn't actually launch with a lot of games, but when you take a look at them, these games actually kept me busy for such a long time, and I've only been playing 4 games. Now, this is really fantastic because they last a long time. Like, if you take an example, like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that is one game that I've been loving, by the way. With Zelda notes included, you're able to walk around the world and collect Korok seeds to your heart's content. You can, 100% the game. Well, you didn't even get your first champion. This is exactly what I did. I got like 500 Korok seeds before I even did the first champion. I'm in love with that. You also had Tears of the Kingdom, which is pretty much the same thing, but in a different story. So if you love collecting Korok seeds, you can finally collect them into a new light. Then I also played Mario Kart World, which Mario Kart World is a pretty great game. Don't get me wrong, I really love the fact that it's open world and all the side missions in there are pretty creative and great. Now, this game, honestly, I think that is like one of the greatest Mario Kart games. Okay, and then I was playing Cyberpunk 2077. Now that game right there, I gotta say that, hey, it looks amazing on Nintendo Switch 2. Really, it utilizes the power of the Switch 2 so well because of the fact that you can take it anywhere you want. Then you can play Cyberpunk on the go. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy that you can even play this game on Nintendo Switch 2 in the first place, and the game looks beautiful. Now, it is a battery guzzler, which is a problem with the Nintendo Switch 2 that we probably got to talk about here. So the battery doesn't actually last that long, and it's either a good thing, it's either a bad thing. Then if you see the good thing side of it, it's like, okay, well, I mean, I can play this for a little bit, and then I got to get up and do something. So, I mean, at least you're not sitting there and playing it all day. But then the bad side of it, well, if you're going somewhere, if you're stuck in a car or whatever, well, you don't have a place to charge it, or you're camping or something. You don't have a charger. The point is, you don't have a charger. Well, the Switch 2 is just gonna go kaputs, and that's the end of it. It like lasts for 2 hours, I believe, which kind of sucks. And also, sometimes some players have reported that the Nintendo Switch 2 battery life doesn't actually indicate what it actually is supposed to. So I've noticed that the Switch 1 lasts for probably 5 hours. I'm going to say, like, probably very long. The Switch 2 loses a battery life every 2 minutes, but then when you get to the last 1%, it lasts for a whole 10 minutes, which is like, wow, that's something right there. But anyways, that's not the only thing. I don't want to just complain about the battery life, but Nintendo has actually put out a patch that you can essentially fix it by yourself by just letting the battery drain all the way to the ground and then, putting it back in. And it also, if you hold the power on button and the volume plus and minus button, you should go inside of the Switch's recovery mode in a way. Then you can just be in that menu and apparently the battery fixes. Now, I haven't actually tried that because my battery, once I let it die all the way, it seems to be just fine. But if you want to, you can try to be inside of that menu. Okay, so the next thing that we got to talk about is, of course, the Nintendo Switch 2 eShop. Now, this eShop is really great, by the way. I really love this eShop. I've actually been having fun exploring things in there. There's been a sale, and I found a random little Switch gift card or whatever, so I was like, so maybe I can get this game. It turns out I had just enough. I had my little gold points, and I was able to get the game, which was Hades 1. I had never played that game, and it was pretty interesting. But anyways, the Nintendo Switch 2 really does a great job with the Switch eShop. The eShop is great. There's so many games. There's so many awesome things in there, and it doesn't lag whatsoever. You plop in your thing, and you're like, okay, I want to watch this. Boom, boom, boom. Also, when it comes to Nintendo Switch games that you're going to get on the eShop, or you're going to put a physical cartridge thingy inside of your Switch, it really does a great job handling those because of the fact that, when you take your Switch 1 cartridge, you're expecting it to be slow. It takes so long to load. No. It actually somehow just, makes it faster. It loads faster, uses more cube cores and all of that stuff to process the game better. Overall, it's a pretty great thing because if you don't want to play on your Switch 1, but you don't have the upgrade or whatever, it still does a great job. Even if you don't have the upgrade for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, by the way, the game still processes faster, and you also have a better loading time and all of that stuff. So overall, it does a great job with all of that good stuff. Okay. So the next thing is the mouse controls. So the mouse controls, I've surprisingly been using that quite a bunch. The mouse controls is really, really great because you can just take your Nintendo Switch controller and plop it down. Now, I haven't actually been using the Switch 2 Joy-Cons much unless I'm playing in handheld mode, but when I want to, it's there. It's usually on the Switch itself inside the dock, and boom, you take it out and you start using it as a mouse. It works perfectly fine because, you plop it down and you're obviously playing either mouse controls for a game or you're using it as a mouse on the Switch 2 itself, which is really, really great, by the way. Okay, so the controllers that you're able to use with this, all the controllers work perfectly fine. I've been using my Nintendo Switch Pro controller, not the Switch 2 Pro controller, the Switch 1 Pro controller, and it works great. It actually works great. The only thing I would say is it doesn't have the ability to turn the console on, which is a really, really sad thing, a really bummer thing, because then you have to reach over and grab it, even though my Switch isn't far from the computer, but it would have been cool if you can just boop, hold it, and there you go. It's on. Congratulations. But, all the controllers work. I was using an NES controller because I was playing Hades with an NES controller, and it works great. It just works great. Okay. So, the GameCube application. Now, this is really awesome because then you can just play your Switch 2 games and then jump over to GameCube application and just start playing the GameCube because it works great. You can just have 4 timestamps and just okay, boom, I want to go to the first ever area that it was. I want to drive around because I'm kind of bored of being on Dragon Roost Island. I have to complete Dragon Roost Island before I can actually go and sail the 7 seas again. Well, then you can load different timestamps and there you go, which is really, really great because, hey, who doesn't want to do that? And the fact that the GameCube is there, then you can, go from one game to the next game really, really quick, and it's just an awesome thing. Now, of course, would you have liked to see the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD and all of that stuff? Yeah, sure, I would like to see all the HD versions of that, but having the GameCube application, having all of those games, saving $200 by them just being there, that's a great thing for me because, they're there, they're quick and easy, and honestly, they still look pretty good. They still look pretty good, and they still run pretty good. We're also supposed to be getting Mario Strikers Battle League or whatever, the old Mario Strikers on GameCube in July 3rd. So yeah, actually we already got it by now. So anyways, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so another thing that I really love about the Nintendo Switch 2 is it's compact. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's bigger than the Switch 1. But the compact being this power being really compact. If you look at the other handheld devices that are kind of like this side, you'll notice that, well, they're not that skinny, and also they're bigger, they're much bulkier, and they do essentially the same thing. The Switch 2 is the same size as the Switch, besides the being longer, but it's the same size, the same thickness. So, having this power inside of this little device, it's nice and compact that really, it doesn't really hurt to hold. But I've noticed that if you're gripping it for too long of a time, your fingers start to get numb. They actually start to get numb. I don't know if it's just a me problem, but you play for too long, you're having fun playing a game, you're not moving your finger much, but it's gripping around the side. But since it can't really, rest on the Switch, because I got tiny little girl hands. I wish I had a camera that I could show you. But, I can't really grip on the system itself really great, like a firm grip. It kind of just hangs there, so then it starts to get numb. That's one thing that I've noticed. But, hey, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not even Nintendo's fault. I think it's my tiny little girl hands. Yeah, so anyways, that's a pretty interesting thing. Okay, so I have one thing to complain about. Now, my Nintendo Switch 2, when it came out, it had this weird glitch. So when you put it inside the dock, it would glitch out for a bit, and then I don't think it was the capture card, because it definitely wasn't, but you put it in and you start, you see the screen is all green and pixelated, and it was gross. Anyways, it looks like this, and it's pretty bad, but once you reseat it, it works just fine. But then it did it again, so then I changed up the HDMI cable and all that stuff, and eventually it was working fine. I haven't seen it since, so that's pretty great, am I right? Okay, so the accessibilities that you're able to use with the system are actually super. They're so great, the accessibility of this system, because you can just take a random camera that you find, like a 1080p camera, plug it in, and you're good. You can have a random mouse and keyboard, and boom, you can use mouse and keyboard on a game that you were playing, like Fortnite or something like that. But yeah, overall, this works really, really great. If you wanted to, you don't want to use a Switch microphone, you could plug in a microphone, and there you go. That would work just fine. And even the top of the system having 2 USB ports, you can do the exact same thing. Like the beautiful Piranha Plant camera. Now, if this camera wasn't so high quality, I think it would be the greatest camera. But, you know, that's just an example of you just plugging it right into the top USB-C port, and you can use it like that. You can also use it to pair your controller. So if you're playing in handheld mode, you can just plop in the USB-C of one end of the controller and the other end, and then use it just like that. Put it in tabletop mode and then use a controller. Boom, it works just fine. So yeah, the Switch 2, overall, it's a great console. It's got a lot to offer. Now for the price, I think it's really great for the price because of the fact that it's probably the best handheld on the market. Now, if you want to play Nintendo games and you want to play some third-party games that are coming out to the system, well, this is the perfect system for you. But if you want to play more of the AAA style system, you could probably get like an Android handheld. You could probably get a Steam Deck or whatever. That would probably be more for you, because if you don't care about Nintendo games, well, then that would probably work better for you. But overall, the Switch 2, the power that this system has is so great. Like, it's really got that power. All right. So now that we talked about the Switch 2's power, the eShop, and all of that stuff, we got to talk about the Switch 2 to Switch 1 connectivity. Okay, so I'm not just talking about the games here. I'm talking about the fact that you're able to take your Switch 1 and your Switch 2 and connect them seamlessly. Now, since we need virtual game keycards, honestly, it works just fine on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, if you don't have your Nintendo Switch, that's where some problems may lie, but the switching from one console to the next console and continuing the game where you left off with the same save data, that works so great. Now, it works pretty much the same way that an original Switch did. If you had 2 Switches, well, then you could switch them back and forth. But this works really great because if you're playing the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of one game, well, then you can switch it over and you can play the Switch 1 version of the game, like this same save file and stuff, which is really, really cool. And if you wanted to start a game off from scratch or whatever, you're playing on Switch 2 and you're having a great time with it, but you notice that you have to go somewhere. You're playing a Switch 1 version of the game, and you have to go somewhere. Well, then you can use the Switch 1 and use that same save file on the Switch 1, and then bring your Switch 1 because the Switch 1 lasts longer with the battery life being better. So overall, that right there is pretty great, and honestly, transferring one console to the next console works. It just works so good. Now, your console has to be online, it just has to be connected to the same internet and all of that stuff, but it works just fine. It actually does work how Nintendo intended it to. And the game sharing feature is also one big talking point. Now, that right there works perfectly fine as well, because you can just have your friend inside of a group kind of thing and then share your game away. It works really great on Nintendo Switch 2 when you want to play, for example, Mario Odyssey, and one person wants to be Cappy and you want to be that. You can easily share your game and just have fun like that. If you didn't want to go and split screen or you didn't have a television or something, it works perfectly fine. Okay, so now we got to talk about the problems that you might be facing with the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I have a couple of these problems, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Now, sometimes if you notice on the right Joy-Con, the magnet doesn't seem to be seating the controller itself. It kind of has a little wobble. If you look right here, I made a whole video about it, but like right here, it's a little wobble. Not a whole video, but like a little thingy. But anyways, point is, it has a little wobble, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. It's just like, you got your new console, you know. I don't even know why I brought it up, but it's just the thing that, hey, if you wanted to know, Switches have a little wobble, which is kind of crazy, am I right? Okay, so another thing that we have to talk about is that weird screen glitching thingy. That is just, you know, probably a bad thing, I would say. If you're worried about it, just start tinkering around with it, eventually you'll probably find the problem. I found the problem, it was pretty great. Okay, so if you were noticing not being able to use the AC adapter for the original Nintendo Switch. Now that right there is a bummer for me because I really did enjoy the AC adapter for that Switch, because I would honestly use that for all of my devices, but not being able to use it on this system is kind of weird thing. It seems to be using the same voltage, but when you plug it in and try to use the dock with it, it's like, oh, you're using the wrong AC adapter or something. So it won't actually work that well. But overall, it's a small price to pay for AC adapter, am I right? Yep. Anyways, okay, so overall, the Switch 2 itself is great. I love the games, I love the features with this thing, and honestly, I want to go a bit more depth with the games. And hey, if you're heading out, well, thanks for watching. Consider hit the subscribe button, and awesome. But the games itself are really where the fun happens. Now, of course, that's where every single console really gets the fun, but the Switch 2 is really unique with the games because of the fact that it's just like, okay, so you're taking old Switch games and you're repurposing them. We're getting a whole bunch of Nintendo Switch 2 upgrades sometime in the future, which is great because then you can repurpose some of the old Nintendo Switch games. Like, honestly, I really do enjoy it. Like, I can't say it enough how much I enjoy The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because being able to just use Zelda notes and collect all the Korok seeds and collect all the shrines and collect all of that stuff is like you're playing a brand new game. And the fact that it looks really great at 4K 60 or even at 1080p, it's just wow. How in the world does this console look so good at 1080p when the original Switch was playing at 1080p and it doesn't look this good? Like, it actually looks really good at 1080p screen. If you haven't tried it, hey, try it out. It looks great. And also the frame rate, it gives you such a good boost of frame rate that it's like, okay, so this doesn't actually, oh no, it doesn't have frame drops, it doesn't have all that stuff. It's pretty great. It's honestly so good. The amiibo support is there. It's actually there. Like, there's more amiibos coming out of this thing than when the Switch was out for so long. Like, we're getting like 8 amiibos this year, which is so crazy to think about. And the amiibo support, it's got a lot. Like, actually, there's so many games that utilize this, and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are like, go and get your amiibo. We're gonna allow you to get more things with your amiibos. So overall, that right there is super great, and it's just something to look forward to, more amiibos, because I really am a fan of amiibos, even though they mostly just sit on the shelf because, hey, they're amiibos. Yeah, I love to play with them when I'm playing a game that offers amiibos. I think Nintendo should do something with amiibos once again. Then you get your amiibo and you start playing with that. Maybe you're as that carrier. Maybe you're getting a different, power up for that. Maybe it's something interesting. Okay, so now we gotta talk about the elephant in the room: the Nintendo Switch 1, the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, these are very big elephants that traverse the 7 seas together, but overall, I'm just joking here. Now, these two consoles here are fantastic. Being able to use them seamlessly is a perfect opportunity to have fun with them. And honestly, I think that the Switch 1, the Switch 2 are great consoles together. The games that are coming out this year are super. We got Pokemon Legends ZA, we got Metroid Prime 4, we got Kirby Air Riders, we got all of those games that are coming out to the system this year, which is absolutely amazing. And hey, if you're on the Switch 1, consider to keep using your Switch 1 because it's great. It's like, your Switch 2, your Switch 1, they're both fantastic consoles. And then we even have the games that are coming to Nintendo Switch 1. We still have great games like Metroid Prime 4 is coming to that system. We also have Pokemon Legends ZA that's also coming to that system, which is all great things. So anyways, what do you think about this? The Nintendo Switch 2, 1 month old. It's a really interesting thing. I'll keep notifying you about different things that I find about the console. Also, this channel makes a lot of different Nintendo content. We got theories, we got what if moments, we got a whole bunch of news about different upcoming games, and we also have just random videos about sometimes Mario Kart, sometimes Pokemon, sometimes The Legend of Zelda, and different games that I find interesting. And hey, consider to use the community tab. Please use the community tab so then I know what you like, what you don't like. Sometimes I make even fun little games that, hey, you could pick and then you can answer a comment or something what you like. Like there was one, okay, if you had to get rid of these Mario Kart games, what Mario Kart game would you get rid of? It's something interesting. Also, if you enjoyed this video, consider to check this video out. You'll probably like it just as much as this video, because if you like Pokemon, I ranked every single Pokemon game. Well, the mainline Pokemon games, of course, but I ranked them all, so you can check that out. I bet you'll have a fun time watching that. You're probably not gonna know which one I did to last, which one I did first. I'll give you a sneak peek. All right, so the worst Pokemon game, in my opinion, is Pokemon Sun and Moon. That's gonna be the thing. All right, so go check it out. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.